Okay, part 4 of Federalist number 3. In the last video, I read the part where that paragraph says the laws of nations towards all these powers. When he talks of laws of nations, it's just talking about the basic and fundamental parts of the international law at the time. So in the paragraph we're going to read now, it starts with, because when once an efficient national government established, the best men in the country will not only consent to serve, but also will generally be appointed to manage it. So when we unite in this vast area, we're going to find the best men to do the job, to run the government, to serve the people. For although town and country or other contracted influence may place men in state assemblies or senates or courts of justice or executive departments, yet more general and extensive reputation for talents and other qualifications will be necessary to recommend men to offices under the national government, especially as it will have the widest field for choice and never experience that want of proper persons which is not uncommon in some of the states. No, I think I need to reread this for you. Especially as it will have the widest field for choice and never experience that want of proper persons which is not uncommon in some of the states. Hence, it will result that the administration, the political councils, and the judicial decisions of the national government will be more wise, systematical, and judicious than those of individual states, and consequently more satisfactory with respect to other nations, as well as more safe with respect to us. Okay, here's one of the things that he mentions, but he doesn't want to come out and say it to offend a lot of people that are in the States. He knows that a lot of people, at least a lot of higher officials, are familiar with how badly the states were ran in the last 11 years leading up to the Constitutional Convention. And he's saying that we have seen in some of these states people that are really not talented, not wise, not people that will think of what is best in the long run for their country, have been elected to offices, to courts, to different branches of government inside the states, because they can, because a lot of times in some of these states, the officials promise favoritism to people if they get elected. Officials promise favors to people if they get elected. So a lot of times it was possible for somebody to get elected without any experience. All they needed to do is to return a favor to people who got them elected. He says when we have a vast country, a big country, and you elect officials to serve there, then they are not going to be purchased, bought, bribed by a small group of people. These will be people that are more knowledgeable and they will put the interest of the country first before the interest of their states. Now here in this paragraph, notice it says, for although town or country or other contracted influences may place men in state assembly. The country he's talking about, it's not like United States or the whole state. He's talking about almost like an area a little bigger than a county. So he's not talking about country like we talk about it right now, okay? That's why he even writes it with a small c. So he says some of these people that get elected from small areas, they can be bought, they can be bribed, they can be purchased. Their interest is the little area they get elected from. So don't mistake that word country for the whole country. You know, almost like you see some of these old Western movies or old movies. They talk about this country here, we grow this and this and this. They're talking about that region. They're not talking about the nation. So keep that in mind. So again, he says, if we unite, we get better people to serve us. These people will put the interest of the whole country, all the 13 states, ahead of interests of, let's say, one little area. And as a result of that, when they make laws, they make sure that those laws don't offend other nations in a way that those nations think treaties are violated and they'll start a war with us. So he says, keep that in mind. Okay, we go to the next paragraph. Because under the national government, treaties and articles of treaties, as well as the laws of nations, will be expounded in one sense and executed in the same manner, whereas adjudications on the same points and questions in 13 states or in 3 or 4 confederacies will not always accord or be consistent, and that as well from the variety of the independent courts and judges appointed by different and independent governments, as from the different local laws and interests which may affect and influence them. The wisdom of the convention in committing such questions to the jurisdiction and judgment of courts appointed by and responsible only to one national government cannot be too much commended. This is an important point. He says, in this Constitution, we have allowed for federal courts. These are courts that will oversee, let's say, more than one state. Or let's say, even if it's one state, they'll oversee a large area of state. So he says, if you have a treaty with some other country, different states, depending on what their interest is, they might violate part of those treaties because they say, the hell with the northern states. Why should we respect this treaty when it's not to our advantage? And even if the case goes to a state court, the state judges might just side with the representatives of the state, because either they've been elected by those representatives or somehow they owe them favor. So instead of looking at the national well-being and what's best for the whole nation, they'll side with the region. Or the same thing with one of the New England states. Some of the state courts might say, the hell with it. Why should we do something that's to the advantage of the South? We will do this thing even though if it violates part of the treaty we've made with somebody else. It's not our problem, it's their problem. So over here he says what we've done is we've made national courts. He's talking about the federal courts, that when a case goes before them, they are not going to be bribed. They're not going to be only looking at the interest of one or two or three states. They'll look at what's best for the whole country. And what's important to remember is that in these federal courts, the judges are appointed for life, during good behavior, I should say. So that makes them immune from politics that might be happening in the states or in the nation. Federal judges, when they actually are appointed, unless they do something criminal or bad behavior, they cannot be removed from office. And because of that, when they make a decision, even if it's not popular with, let's say, part of the states, they'll do it and not worry that they're going to be removed, that they're going to lose their seat, that they're going to be removed from office. So they're appointed for life during good behavior, and this makes them immune from ups and downs of the politics of different states. So this is very important. That's one of the things they did in this new constitution. They said we will appoint judges, federal judges that are going to serve for life or during good behavior. This way, they look at what's best for the country in the long run and not fall prey to politics of a region, of an area, of a certain time. So keep that in mind.